call the meeting to order, because we have a long agenda for a short night. So, since we don't have a flag, we'll waive the pledge of allegiance for this meeting. We'll also give Westwood Media Center the right to record and ask if anybody else wishes to record. Seeing none, we'll move along. Pam, you'll be the first up. I'm sure Mr. Gillette has already seen this once or twice, so we don't necessarily have him here.
I just have a very quick budget update for you. You have a packet in front of you. Just a couple of quick things. First, we were just in last week, so that's why it's very quick. We thought we would have some more information for you.
No, only for executive.
Oh,
Yes, that's okay.
We thought we would have information on the state budget. We just have one piece, the unrestricted municipal aid, that's the old lottery aid money. There's a proposed increase of 2.7%. That's in line with what the statewide revenue estimate increase is. That's only about $20,000 for Westwood, so a very small increase, nothing that really materially affects our overall budget. But the Chapter 70, we thought we might have an update on that for you. We don't. The governor does release his budget tomorrow, so we will hear more about that. Our current Chapter 70 is $5.3 million. That's what we're currently carrying in our FY20 budget, level of funding of that. So we won't have a further update on that until tomorrow.
But what was the indication at the MMA conference on Friday, that it was going up?
There was really no discussion on Chapter 70.
On 70 there was,
Yeah,
okay.
they talked about the lottery aid going,
Okay.
the municipal aid.
So we really don't know.
Really don't know. But we would have heard a bit of that.
I did hear some rumblings earlier that they were trying to make it more mandated and start to fund it more, but that's all you heard. It was just rumblings, nothing official.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll see tomorrow.
We will see tomorrow. And then just the next couple of pages, just a quick recap of where we are with the budget. So on page 3, our overall operating budget, $94.3 million for FY20. That's about a 3.5% increase over the current year's budget. We have the listing here of the various components and what they're looking like for a change. The school operating budget, about a 3.5% increase. That's the largest increase dollar-wise in the proposed budget, about $1.5 billion. About 3.5%. The municipal operating budget, $740,000 increase, about a 3.6% increase. That Blue Hills number there, I think I indicated before, that's just a preliminary estimate. They've given me a range at this point. I just put the high end of the range, and I expect that to come down before we go final with that budget. Fixed cost overall, 4% increase. That does contain a 5% increase for health insurance. And then debt and sewer just in line with what those actual costs will be. The university station item, we will be allocating, based on your meeting last week, some funding towards items in that bucket, as we've done in previous years. So currently $587,000, with about $530,000 of that for police and fire and public safety staffing, as you outlined, and $50,000 for the schools, having a small increase in the transportation for some of the students for the university station area. So the use of that money, again, you've done before 2 different times since that project came online. This is in line with the funding as originally outlined when that project came online. There were additional service costs, those would be paid for first with the funding, so right in line with that project development right from the beginning. So overall, about a 3.5% increase to the operating budget. That's another year of good, stable, sustainable growth for those departments. And just moving forward on page 4, the select board has tried very hard the last couple of years to continue to increase our overall funding for our capital budget items, continue to maintain our town and school buildings, infrastructure, equipment, and this budget will again do that. So we've listed the various capital articles as they currently stand. And again, based on the meeting of last week, we've been able to increase this a bit. So the municipal capital article, $1.3 million. The school capital article, just over $1 million. Sewer capital, $1 million, and that's funded with the sewer enterprise funds. Small article for some ambulance, $67,000. And then that other capital improvements, kind of that above our base budget, currently $2.2 million. One item I need to finalize there. As we were able to adjust the school capital article, a small item they had in here, we can slide over to that article. And we're going to add one item in to this school capital to the overall capital, other capital. I believe that final number will be about $2.4 million. And the item coming in will be about a $300,000 item for some necessary HVAC work at the middle school.
And the funding source for this other capital is a combination of free cash and meals and hotel tax?
Correct. That whole article will be funded with free cash and the meals and hotel. And again, to use the meals and to have a very healthy capital article is coming as a recommendation to you from the Long Range Financial Planning Committee, who felt that it's a terrific use of that meals tax money to get some important projects completed. And so the schools were very happy to be able to get that middle school, not that that's, it's just a very necessary item here for them. And then the road bond, $4.9 million road bond, that would be debt authorization. The recommendation at this point to fund with a debt exemption, and you'll hear more about that from Todd today. And then just on page 5, just again, as I mentioned, that we'll have that section within the operating budget that shows the targeted use of university station revenue. $537,000 for public safety staff and $50,000 for school transportation needs. Again, in line with what you've done in different years, and we show that in a separate area in the budget, so it's very transparent on the use of that new university station revenue. We will continue to have the small transfer to our stabilization fund, keep us on track with that for our bond rating and our financial policies, and good protection for us for future. And then the OPEB. $1.4 million to the OPEB keeps us in terrific shape with the progress that's been made on addressing that liability. And that's really it. On the next page, just what we have now going forward. So we are at this point, as we get close to February 1, we're getting ready to produce our budget documents. We'll produce the municipal budget request, that $3.6 million, 3.6% increase in the budget, and we'll get that out. The overall summary budget document, which has all of your recommendations for expenditures as well as revenue and all the detail. We'll get that out too next week. And then we go into the Finance and Warrant Commission on February 5th and go through all of the presentations that you've seen and the overview of the budget. And as you know, we always continue to kind of refine and update our budget as we go forward with this point, continuing to work with you as well as the Long Range Financial Planning Committee. And then we'll be preparing any supplements that we need for our current year budget, which typically are our Article 1 and 2. So we're at that point where we'll pause and print our budget, start to get those out, distribute, go through those with FinCom, and then really bring you any updates for things that change as we go along. And we get the state aid information, any other small changes that may occur.
And Pam, the school committee has seen their budget now. There's been a presentation of that.
The superintendent did an excellent presentation to the school committee last week and went through the budget.
Any issues or outstanding items in that discussion that you're aware of?
Nope, they seemed on track, pleased with the budget that they could have, were able to address various needs. I know the night we go into the FinCom, Emily Parks will be coming also and presenting to the FinCom. And the biggest thing seems to be, as they've been focusing on the last couple of years, the flow of the student through the grades. So they are able to accommodate areas where they need more students with kind of changes in areas where the student population is declining. Very pleased with the additional capital that's been able to be funded. And staying on target with the large school project coming in the next couple of years. They've got a lot of work to do to get ready for that project. Very pleased with the support that the select board has been able to provide to them on that project.
Good.
Thanks.
Thank you. Anything else?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you, Pam.
Thank you.
Thank you to your staff.
Send us an update when you have news tomorrow about Chapter 70. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Fortune, you're
All
next
right.
on the agenda.
How are you? Good, good. Thank you.
Discussion about the proposed road improvement bond article.
First, have you gotten any sleep since the snowstorm?
Very little.
Good
We're in the
work.
Patriots game, cut me up a little bit.
Yeah.
It's been a rough few days, but we're on the other side.
That's it.
Thank you for all that.
You're welcome. So the road improvement bond, so what we looked at and what we've been looking at over the past several years is our deficiency that we see in Chapter 90, and where we have gaps and things that we haven't been able to address. Now that said, this year, I had some good discussions with Mike and with Pam, and we were able to put together what I deem is a town project. And under that town project, about 4 large items that we would like to address out of the $4.9 million bond request. The first item of which would be the paving along Route 109. The Dedham Water District is performing a project that will begin this summer. The exact timeline is unknown because they've yet to bid the project and award it, but we're looking at probably early summer. And they're going to be doing some water main work approximately between, on 109 between Pond Street heading up to Pheasant Hill, and then from Pheasant Hill heading up towards Bubbling Brook a little bit. Then they're going to be doing a section off of Pond Street as well, from Clovertree Street up to Pond Lane. So we always assess where we are from a pavement management standpoint. 109 has needed some work for the past couple of years. We've done some preventative measures to keep it intact, but now that the district is going forward, it's a perfect opportunity for us as a community to take advantage of piggybacking them, having them come in, do their work, and then we come in and address some of the sidewalk deficiencies that we have along Route 109, along with the paving that needs to be done. The cost estimate for that particular project, for that facet of this bond request, is about $2 million. And again, that will include resurfacing all of 109. Our original limits were set pretty much right near Gay Street, heading all the way up to the town line by Bubbling Brook. With that, we'd like to address the deficiencies in some of our sidewalk infrastructure. Take out the hot mixed asphalt sidewalk stretches that we have, replace that with some nice concrete and granite curbing where there is no granite curbing. So we feel, you're gonna go in and do this piggyback a Dedham Water project. It's an optimal time for us to take advantage of this and really make that corridor up to speed from an ADA compliance standpoint, along with your pavement preservation. It'll give us another 10 to 12 plus years anyways.
Can I ask questions as we go along?
Yes, you
Are you
can.
okay with that?
Sure.
Sorry to interrupt. So a couple things. So Dedham Westwood Water District is responsible for putting the road back in drivable condition after their work. So can you, we had a grading system you used to educate us on. So the current condition of the road is what level in the grading that they have to bring it back to?
Right. The current condition of Route 109 is it's approximately in like a high 60 rating, which would, from a school standard, would probably be a C minus, D plus. Our average rating throughout the community right now is an 84. The average throughout the state is like low to upper, low, I would say low 70s is a fair assessment. So that shows you where we are, and essentially what that road improvement bond that we took on 5.5 years ago, where that brought us to is from a level of standards. When the district or any other utility comes in and they want to perform a measure, depending upon where we are, we assess, Brendan and I and Beta will assess and say, well, is it fair for that utility to come in and repave a road that we know needs to be repaved based on the rating? Or should we try to work out a form of mitigation of some sort, depending upon where it lies in that rating? That said, we sat down with the district. They've been very cooperative over the years. We've had segments of roadway. Pond Street is a segue that they're going to be addressing with some water main work that they will be bringing up to snuff, and they are giving us a good chunk of mitigation money to do so. On 109, where we've already assessed what they're going to be doing for work, we just want them to bring it up to the standard of being able to travel for the 6 to 8 months that we want to allow for settling, when we then go in and revamp what we already know is a road that we need to revamp anyways.
So you're saying it's presently in the 60s?
Correct.
And when, after it settles and we come back in, we're gonna bring it up to what level?
We're going to bring it up to 100 once we do the work
Okay.
necessary.
So we're very, the
Exactly.
grade is poor now.
Sure.
And the work will be done, and then this will allow us to get it up to the higher standard that
Correct.
it should be at.
In their timeline, with the amount of work and the type of work that they're going to be doing, you want to allow for trenching to settle. So we don't want to go in and piggyback the road and just mill and overlay the road a month later. But what we want to do is take advantage of them doing the trench work with minimal disruption, or as minimal as you can possibly have along 109, but taking advantage of the opportunity to update the sidewalks. That we can do. So in a sense, rather than all at once, we're doing sidewalks, we're milling, we're paving, the district's in front of us. It makes sense to do this, like we can do the sidewalks, then the only thing we as a town have to address come first thing in the spring, then we can do the paving.
So it's a
you don't
program
have
of
like this. Exactly, so there'll be a lot of moving pieces, but it's very manageable.
Okay, thank you.
So we looked at that, again, the cost estimate came in, and please, again, feel free to interrupt at any point. Cost estimate for that project is approximately $2 million. The second segment was in relation to a study that was just completed. It's in draft form, but we wanted to look at all the crosswalk locations in the entire community, of which we have 202, and see from a safety standpoint, are they up to speed? From an ADA compliance standpoint, are they up to code? This study brought a lot of information together, a lot of recommendations, some of which included signage enhancements, markings, again, ADA compliance, bringing ramps up to code. And within that study, very much draft form right now, came up with a cost estimate of approximately $500,000 to address all of our deficiencies. So in conjunction with our pavement management program, some of these locations lie within limits of work, like 109 being one, Pond Street being one, limits of work that we're able to address immediately. Others are outside those bounds, but we could still address them in various ways. So we figured if we're going for a large amount of money here, this would make sense to tie this in as one of the segments of that.
So I dare ask, how many of the 202 sidewalks, crosswalk safety are we taking care of?
Yeah, every one of them.
Every one.
Yeah, we're all in on this, and as part of the study, and we're yet to really sit down with Beta. It's very much in draft format, but we haven't sat down and really gone through the nitty gritty. But the cost estimate is gonna run about $500,000 to do so. And I figure if you're gonna do one or two or 100, let's just go after all of them and, essentially be the one community that's really taking a proactive approach to crosswalk safety and pedestrian safety, which is a big thing nowadays. Should have always been, but even more so.
Is this all in-house work?
As far as, no.
When you actually, okay.
No, for the most part, this would be contracted out.
Okay.
So
But one company you'll get to do it, or we break it?
It's gonna be interesting to see how we did this. We like to take advantage of different ways that we can go about this and different times of the season that we can do this. Without saying for certain, I feel as though this might be something that you could probably bid out separately and try to get a more competitive price. Sometimes when you bid it all as a lump sum, now you're getting subcontractors coming in, and the GC is trying to crank the price through the roof. Meanwhile, I think, so if you take a little more time to identify and properly, Michelle Miller's been great with helping us with bid documents and taking advantage of little things like that. Takes a little longer, but you get a better return. The next item is out of this 4.9 is $1.5 million to put towards pavement and sidewalk enhancements throughout the entire community. Of late, even throughout all the pedestrian bicycle safety committee meetings, there has been a large outcry to address deficiencies with just regarding sidewalks. We've had several concerns regarding the Hartford Street sidewalk. There's no curbing reveal whatsoever. It's just a flush sidewalk that, again, no ADA compliance. Really no clear distinction of where the sidewalk is and where the edge of pavement is. So really trying to address issues such as that, such as the sidewalk that runs from Salisbury up to Route 109. Again, same problems that we have there, no granite curve reveal, no safety for the children that are using that as a major thoroughfare via walking to the middle school and to the high school. And the last portion, and that cost estimate for those sidewalks that we are looking to address is running about $1.5 million to do so. A couple more locations are along Pond Street and out between Claventry Street and Pond Lane, again, where the Devon Water District will be doing their work. We can piggyback that trenching, do the paving next spring, but address those sidewalks this coming construction season. And as part of our Chapter 90 paving project this coming summer, we're going to be paving the entire Copley through Fairview neighborhood off of Washington Street. And there is a ton of sidewalk infrastructure in there that we're just not able to absorb for about $540,000 that we get from Chapter 90. So again, we'll be using some of this $1.5 million to evenly distribute throughout these various projects that we're able to really take on a large chunk of work and get it completed. And the last portion of the bond itself is a $900,000 item or just pavement preservation. We ran really lean this past year with our Chapter 90 that we really weren't able to do as good of a job as I would have liked to have seen with crack sealing, with microsurfacing, with fog sealing, with measures that you really should be taking advantage of at certain time frames after you pave. You don't just pave a road and just leave it. 2 or 3 years later, typically you have to address it with some form of a measure. And this year, we really weren't able to do that, which I think affected our overall rating a little bit. So, you know, we looked at all these things, all the desires from residents, things that we need to do from an infrastructural standpoint, bundle it all together and said, this is a perfect opportunity to come forward and, you know, put it all together as one large sum and see if the town supports it. And, you know, this isn't a public works project, we'll manage it, but I think we all have to look at this as a town project and something that ultimately is gonna benefit the entire community. And I said to Mike, I've said to Pam, and I said to Long Range Financial, give us the 2 years to do this, and you're gonna see a complete facelift or a big improvement in all the infrastructure in all of our crosswalk locations throughout town. You're really gonna see a significant change.
So that answers my question, how long would it take, 2 years to do all?
I would say about 2 years.
Okay.
And I think everything will be up to code, and we'll kill it, and we'll do it, and you guys can congratulate us afterwards, and we can thank you for appropriating the money to do so.
Pam, can you talk a little bit about what would your anticipation be in terms of borrowing for this? I know it's indicated that a debt exemption would be required. What the annual cost to an average household value might be, what the term of a bond might be. What do you envision for this, to the extent you can at this point?
Yep, we're early, we'd still evaluate that, but we would look to do this for a 10-year bond. That's, you know, long enough, certainly it's long-term infrastructure, but we wouldn't want to go longer only because, you know, in another 10 years, there may be more road work at that point. So that's a good time frame that helps to spread the cost. That debt service is, you know, about $500,000 a year on that bond. That would be about $80 for the average one.
And 2-year project, would we borrow on a short-term basis and then put it into a 10-year bond after the work is done, or do you?
Yes, we
how
would
can you
definitely
envision
need
that?
to, you know, we're kind of not there yet, we need
Yeah.
to, as it gets more
Look at the
specific
timing.
and move forward with that. Treasurer Gavin would be working with Todd, trying to match the timing, so we may not go out all at once with the bond. He'd have to kind of match that to the timing. You know, we do have some small natural drop-off in the debt each year over the next couple of years. The way our debt is issued, level principal decline in interest, so there's kind of a natural little drop each year. We currently have the high school and the library is exempt. It's about a $100,000 drop in exempt debt each year. So a little bit of this as it comes on, kind of that first 100,000 of the 500,000 would kind of really just be absorbed by what's dropping off.
Questions, anything else? Okay. Todd, you want to talk to us about the traffic study?
Sure, so we came in, I want to say it was almost 2 months ago, give or take, and we presented on a traffic study that was conducted in the Pleasant Valley neighborhood. We found that during the morning peak hours, that there was a volume issue, just during the morning peak hours, and did a full presentation on the numbers and the data that was collected from Beta and coordinating with Beta, and was asked by the select board at that time to come back with any suggestions or recommendations that we could come forward with. We then sat back, we consulted with Beta and Ken Ho, and we looked at Route 109, traveling primarily eastbound, as there's always been inquiries regarding an additional lane and what that would do to the flow of traffic. Ken and his crew did a fantastic job. They looked at the existing footprint of what's out there right now, primarily from the Summer Street location, heading all the way up to the Lauterbrook location. And everyone's familiar with that stretch, that it goes from one lane it goes from 2 lanes down to 1 lane and then back to the 2 lanes as you approach Loverbrook. And our goal was to say, could we possibly fit in a consistent, continuous stretch of 2 lanes? Ken has looked at that, and with what is out there right now, we are able to do so. Ken and his staff put together a set of plans, which I believe you guys have in front of you there. We also have a hard copy here of what we're proposing to do. And I look at it as an opportunity for the town to take advantage of this and see what level of effectiveness this might have with respect to the flow of traffic without doing a real heavy lift project out there and having to involve takings and everything else that was always thought to be the case, which isn't the case.
Did we just do one side, Todd?
We're just gonna do the one.
Right side?
We're gonna do the right side heading eastbound,
Heading eastbound.
correct.
Yeah.
Now, what that'll do is reduce the shoulder width.
Right.
However, there is, on the west side, westbound side, there is a sidewalk that's there. So there are pedestrian accommodations, but we just feel that it is an opportunity to see, what type of impact is this? And Mike had asked, will this be permanent? It very well could be. If we see that there are any types of deficiencies with the functionality of it, we could always make adjustments. But I think overall, it's certainly not gonna hurt what's out there now. And it could help, and it could have a trickle effect into the abutting neighborhoods, Pleasant Valley being one of them.
And this is purely a matter of striping to define the lanes.
It's
There's
striking,
no
but what we're gonna do is take a step
construction.
backwards. Now, there's no construction, but we're gonna do a microsurfacing, similar to what we did on
Okay.
Pond Street,
Mhm.
which is a preventative measure. It's only gonna help the integrity of the pavement that's out there now. And then that basically will give us
Cleans
a
it
clean
up.
chalkboard to now restripe and
Yep.
make it look, rather than try to scratch out or black out.
And how do you do it on a work basis, overnight, or what, I mean, that's such an important piece of roadway.
We're gonna have to, so typically we've microsurfaced overnight, and with little disruption. It's really not like a heavy lift project.
It's not that big.
We'll microsurface overnight and then allow that to adhere, probably give it microsurfacing. We wanna really let the traffic build it into the existing pavement. So probably give it a week and a half to 2 weeks of heavy travel on top of the surfacing. And then we'll come in like we do our annual striping in the spring, night work. We just come in and paint the lines, and they'll do it in 2 phases. They'll have a long line crew come in and do the whites and the yellows, and then a hand crew that comes in. And if there's any arrow work, which there will be some arrow work that needs to be done, they'll come in and do the arrow work the following night.
So our right of way, there's no land takings, it's all within the right of way?
All within the right of way, and all within the town's layout too.
We like that.
Yeah.
Any other questions on this? Thank you, Tony. All right, moving on, we have Flushing. Thank you. We have a traffic calming request by the Fieldstone and Pleasant Valley residents.
Tiffy Drew, everywhere.
Yeah, I didn't say that. So, you want to come up and identify yourself? Come up
Sure.
front, please.
Yeah.
Because, our TV cameras are running, so.
My name is Matt Terrell. I live on Pleasant Valley Road. I've lived there for almost 3 years. And I'll let Stephanie introduce herself as well.
I'm Stephanie Chinaski. I live at 50 Pleasant Valley Road. I've also been there for just shy of 3 years.
And so we're coming tonight and you've heard these concerns previously. We are, as parents in the neighborhood, we're very concerned with the sheer volume of traffic as Farm Lane and Fields and Pleasant Valley are used as cut-throughs, particularly in the morning. Just to highlight from the traffic study that was done over the summer, just between the hours of 7 and 8 a.m. in the morning, on that day, 363 cars cut down Farm Lane, down into Pleasant Valley Road, and then out onto 109. And I believe in the studies that 90% of those cars were cut through. So with the amount of cars, and although they also said too that speed was not a factor, but if you factor in 15% of those cars were speeding, that's over 50 cars every morning that are speeding down the road. So We have been talking a lot. We went to a couple of traffic study meetings. We were at the November meeting when Todd presented the traffic study to you. And we were listening to a lot of the different options, what are the options, what can we do about this? And as a neighborhood, we were trying to look for what's the least impactful option that we can do, but also provides the safety for our neighborhood and for our students. We have a lot of young children now in the neighborhood who are preparing to go to school, to ride the buses in the morning. And that is by far our biggest concern that we have. So our proposal is to put a no right turn sign on Fox Hill. So it would be a no right-hand turn onto Farm Lane, which is where the cut-through is happening. You come down Fox Hill, you take a right onto Farm Lane and a left onto Pleasant Valley Road, which is basically the last right that you can take on Route 109. The timing of it would be from 7 to 8:30, and the reason for that is when the buses are running through the neighborhood. So those are the times of the routes of the buses from high school all the way down to elementary school. We would ask that those signs be only during the weekdays and only during the school years. Again, our goal is to have this be the least impactful that it can for the neighbors. So it would not be taking place during the summer and not being taking place on the weekend. It also, would really just involve putting a sign in, so in terms of financial costs, and potentially has the potential to be a temporary measure, as what was presented earlier was talking about, was it called adaptive light system? Is that the correct terminology for it? So the adaptive light system that is in proposal for Route 109 that is hopefully going to make the traffic flow better onto 109. That this is a measure that maybe in a couple of years we could have another traffic study done to see how that is impacting the traffic on Farm Lane and Pleasant Valley Road at this time.
Or even potentially do the traffic study in the fall after the striping has been changed on 109 as well. I recognize there's two measures that are coming up that may make a difference for the neighborhood. We really view this as a behavioral change too, right? So we're making the changes on 109, but we're still having ways that's going to be directing them down Pleasant Valley. So we've got to change that behavior, redirect them to 109 when we really would like them to be. And then hopefully that behavior sticks as they see that 109 is opened up, the lights are getting changed, the striping's being changed as well. So they're not viewing that they're just sitting in the traffic there and not moving.
In the packets that Stephanie handed to you, you'll see that that's the map of all the houses that we went to. There's a copy of the petition that we passed around to everyone. Not only do we go from house to house, but we also put it into everybody's mailboxes, and we had a neighborhood meeting. And we do have support of over 70% of the neighbors. And of the 52 households we were actually able to have face-to-face contact with, 49 of those households were on board and signed the petition, and 3 of those households said no to the proposal.
So, obviously, our third member is not here this evening, but when I look at your map, I look and say, okay, what about the people on Fox Hill Street where the traffic is then going to go? Have you talked to them at all and say that, they're coming down your street if they're not making that right-hand turn and then a left?
So I would say to that, they're already going down that, so you have to get onto Fox Hill to get down. So again, my percentage are probably off, but I would say you probably travel 75 to 80% of the way down Fox Hill before you take a right onto Farm Lane. So it's not like we're redirecting it onto a street that didn't have traffic on it before. All 363 of those cars that came down our street are more than likely coming down Fox Hill as well. And after that only affects, there's 10 houses between where Farm Lane, where Fox Hill connects to 109, whereas it affects about 30 houses that go through either Farm Lane or Pleasant Valley going down that direction. So I do understand that, but I also look at, you look at Fox Hill from a bird's eye view. It is the connecting, it was designed, it was put in place as the connection between Gay Street and 109. The traffic was intended to go down that street.
Yes.
I hear you, I hear your concerns. I guess you said you were at our meeting back in November. One of the things that I believe was said back then, Mike Gillette, you can tell me if this was the case, that we've had issues trying to close streets in the past, and it hasn't gone well. And I consider this a closure. I consider taking a public road away from the public during the hours indicated. So when I look at this, I look at what are our options And I don't consider this in the toolbox of options. I think what Todd has been working on with Beta for what we just talked about, and then with the lighting, what is it called again? Adaptive signal. I think those are in our toolbox, so I'm just concerned, I hear you, I understand your concern, but these are public roads and it's very difficult to close public roads. We've tried in some cases and we have failed. And this doesn't redirect it to Fox Hill, it will redirect it to other neighborhoods. So if this was in our toolbox, we'd have, I don't know how many neighborhoods coming in and asking us to do the exact same thing and say, why not us? So there's a reason it's not in the toolbox, because that is what will happen. People have already been calling, saying, if you're going to do it here, we want it here. And I think for those reasons, it's not really something I think we can consider doing.
I would just address, I recognize the trickle-down effect, right? And that's why we're presenting it as something temporary, as a behavioral change. And to those other neighborhoods, you could potentially say, look, this neighborhood organized, they went out and did the petition, they were all in agreement on this. We're using them as the pilot program to see if a temporary change like this for a short amount of time is enough to change those behaviors and redirect the traffic to 109. If it works in this neighborhood, we can then go around to other neighborhoods on a, most immediate need basis and do it one by one. I agree. I know there's going to be a trickle-down effect. I do think we need to think about the kids in the town. I mean, just the other day, we got an email from one of the moms on the street. One woman sped through the bus sign, didn't even notice that there was a little girl in the street.
Yeah, I
until the
understand people's
bus was
driving
honking.
behaviors these days are just terrible, but you're suggesting that we could do this one by one, different neighborhoods. Again, I just don't think that's an option in our toolbox.
Which I do agree with, but also we're trying to tie this to what the bigger plan is, because this, this is possibly a temporary solution, where these are the better, longer term in terms of the repaving of the roads and making it to be 2 lanes and the adaptive signals, which is hopefully the ultimate end goal for. But for us, we see those as having very small children in the neighborhood ready to get on a bus at 7:30, 7:45, 8 o'clock in the morning, and cars coming by at a rate of 1 every 6 seconds coming down a road with
I
no
hear you. We went through the
safe
whole
places to
Conant
go
Road.
to.
How long did we work on that with Conant Road? And we had to do traffic calming because the speeds there were notably in excess of correct speeds, but we couldn't stop the traffic from going through, and we still have the traffic going through. Speed was the factor, but we just can't close roads. That's my opinion.
Their proposal to us was to close that couple of roads so you couldn't have it through traffic, and we said we can't do that. That's unacceptable. But we did in that instance because the traffic speeds were 5 to 10 miles per hour faster than the speed limit because of traffic calming measures, and they have been very effective. So the volume is virtually the same, it's just it's a little slower. In this case, we don't have the same speed issue.
So, we won't take a vote on it tonight because I think our other members should weigh in on it. And I haven't really decided yet one way or another. I've considered trying it for a little while, like 30 days or 60 days and see what happens. But since I'm not a traffic expert and they tell me it's not gonna work and it's only gonna make it worse,
Well, we also have input from the police department that
Right.
discourages this.
and maybe we'll have that next time the police come in and tell us why as well, when our other member was here.
Yeah, so if we can do that, it would be great. Thank you.
We can have you back another time.
Okay.
Okay, just because we have other pressing issues tonight,
But
but
we
we do
appreciate
hear you, and we know you did a lot of work to organize, but, it gets one of those things, you pit one neighborhood against another, and it never works out well, so, from what we've learned, so. But we'll have you back again, you're welcome to come back to one of our other meetings in February, or, March, so we'll see how fast we get you back.
All right, thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you. So you, one more, you're gonna do study on East Street and all, we're doing. Well, that's just an FYI.
Yeah, it's just an FYI.
Never mind. I hear you. No, I'm glad you're doing it. I'm glad you're doing it.
We'll see you at FinCom. Thanks, Ken.
Take care, Tom. Okay. So next under old business, we are reviewing the annual town meeting warrant articles. So we have a number of articles before us. We have a total of, is this not numbered yet? 31?
31.
Of which the select board has 20? I'll see.
18, 19,
Yeah, let's say about 19.
plus 3 miscellaneous.
Yes, well, we've already used one? Oh, no, we haven't used one yet. Okay. So, I don't really have any questions about the minutes, do you?
No.
I've been through them, okay. So, we don't need to take any action, correct?
You just need to vote to open the warrant and add sale of town-owned property,
Okay.
and then close the warrant.
Is that taking it from miscellaneous?
You can use a miscellaneous, or you can open the warrant.
I think we should just put this in miscellaneous.
That's fine.
That's why we do it.
Yeah.
So do we need a motion to use the miscellaneous for that?
Yes.
Yeah, to use the miscellaneous.
I move that we use one of the miscellaneous articles reserved by the select board to take up the warrant article, the sale of town-owned property at the corner of Laura Lane and Gay Street, 16-452.
And I'll second on the necessity. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And we have open space and recreation plan letter from the select board.
Do we have an updated? That, very minor edits, just a couple of grammar, and that's it. When do they need this?
January 29th.
Okay, so I can arrange with John to get it signed, so that he signs it. He's not coming to FinCom, is he?
No, it's not.
Oh, that's good. Okay,
Yeah, everyone needs to.
At least it's not bad.
I move that we sign the letter with select board comments on the open space and recreation plan and submit it to the planning board for inclusion in the plan document.
I guess my only edit would be, personally, if we put a date on it, that we'd work it out.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that's okay. I can work it.
Okay, the motion.
I'll second. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. Okay, the board will be going to an executive session to discuss two issues. One issue related to potential litigation and one issue on the real estate matter affecting town-owned land on Harvard Street, both of which would have a detrimental effect on the position of the governing body if it were the discussion were held in open session. The board will not be returning to open session, but we will adjourn into the Finance and Warrant Commission to talk about our articles after our executive session. And let the record reflect that the select board member, John Hickey, is attending remotely via speakerphone for our meeting on January 22nd, 2019, under 940 CMR 29.00.
I move we go into executive session for the aforementioned reasons.
Could you just hold that? Okay, John's on the phone. He should participate in the vote. So he can-
Yeah,
Okay, you want to go again?
Why don't you read the second?
John, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. Let the record reflect that member John's attendance via speakerphone can be heard by all present at this meeting. And I have a motion to go into executive session.
So moved, for the aforementioned reasons.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Mrs. Hyde?
Aye.
Mr. Walsh? Aye. Mr. Hickey?
Aye.
Okay, we are going to executive session.